Okay, so get ready, because things are about to get kind of weird today, in a really fascinating way. We're diving into biocentrism.
Biocentrism.
Yeah, that theory that puts consciousness at the center of the universe. We're taking a deep dive into Biocentrism, the book by Robert Lanza and Bob Berman. And let me tell you, this book, it throws out this proposition. What if our senses, everything we rely on to experience the world, what if they're deceiving us?
Whoa.
Yeah, woe is right. What if we're not just like passively observing reality, but we're actually creating it?
It's a wild idea, definitely. But it's this really fascinating challenge to that very fundamental idea that, like, there's this independent reality out there and we're just observing it. And, I think what's really got people talking about this is that a lot of our current models in physics, they're struggling. They're struggling to explain things.
Like, give me an example.
Well, dark energy, for one, that's a big one.
Right.
And even Einstein, he was wrestling with the limitations of our human perception. How do we even begin to understand something as vast and complex as the universe, right?
It's true. And it's like we're at this point where we're almost having to question
Mm.
everything we thought we knew. And it's interesting because in the book, Lanza, he talks about having these moments of doubt, even as a kid, like these vivid childhood memories. He talks about wandering through the woods, coming across these hidden clearings, teeming with life. And he had this realization, those places, they existed whether he was aware of them or not.
Right.
And it made him start to question this idea of a single fixed reality. Like, have you ever experienced something like that? A moment that just made you question the nature of reality?
Well, Lanza uses the example of a rainbow, right? It's a beautiful thing. It's right there in the sky. We can all agree it exists. But does it? I mean, really? Without someone to see it, is it anything more than just wavelengths of light bouncing around?
Hmm.
So biocentrism takes that same logic and it applies it to, well, everything. What if our senses are actually shaping our world instead of just showing it to us?
So you're saying my morning coffee only becomes coffee when I look at it.
Maybe. It's like our senses are the ultimate baristas or something.
I like that, the ultimate barista.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, jokes aside, it does really make you wonder how much of what we experience is truly out there versus being created by our own minds.
Yeah, and it's a huge question and it makes you think differently about everything, even time.
Okay, yeah, time. Because Lanza argues that our experience of time, this straight line from past to present to future, that's actually just a product of our biology,
Yeah.
not some inherent property of the universe itself.
Exactly. It's how our brains make sense of change, not necessarily how change, actually occurs.
So what you're saying is that time might not be this concrete thing we've always thought it was.
Well, think of it like this. Lanza uses this great analogy in the book. He compares how we perceive time to like a single frame in a movie.
Okay, I can see where you're going with this.
Right. So imagine pausing a movie right on that frame showing an arrow in flight.
Okay, got it.
You see the arrow's position frozen in that one single moment, but you've lost all sense of its motion. What Lanza's saying is that our perception is kind of like that frozen frame. We latch onto things in time to try to understand them, but the universe, reality itself, it's all much more fluid and dynamic than that.
Okay, so it's not that time doesn't exist at all. It's more that our human experience of it, with its neat little boxes of past, present, and future, might just be a simplified version of something much more complex.
Exactly.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
So we've established that time, it might not be what it seems. But what about space? Does biocentrism mess with our understanding of that too?
Oh, absolutely. Just like with time, Lanza says that our experience of space, this vast three-dimensional emptiness, that's just another one of our perception's little tricks. It's how we take in sensory information and organize it, but it may not reflect how reality actually is.
Okay, I'm following you. Give me an example, though. Help me wrap my head around this.
Okay, picture yourself standing in front of Niagara Falls. Amazing, right? You see it as this one massive waterfall, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
But zoom in, get up close, what do you see?
Countless water droplets, all separated by these tiny bits of space, and they're all moving in this intricate dance. It's mesmerizing.
And that's the point. It's all about our focus, our perception. How spacey something seems to us is all relative. Biocentrism says that space, just like time, isn't this fixed objective reality. It's more like a tool we use to try to make sense of what's around us.
So that sparseness or crowdedness that we feel when we're somewhere, maybe it says more about our mental state than the actual environment we're in.
Exactly.
Huh. Makes you think of those packed rush hour commutes a bit differently, doesn't it?
Right. It really does. And it's not just about like sensory perception either. Quantum entanglement, that throws another curveball into our whole understanding of space.
Yes.
Mm.
Quantum entanglement, where two particles, they're linked, and they can affect each other instantly across huge distances, like space doesn't even exist for them. It's like that phrase, spooky action at a distance.
Spooky indeed. It's one of the biggest mysteries in quantum mechanics. I mean, these particles can be billions of light years apart and still behave like they're right next to each other, as if the space between them means nothing.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
So where does biocentrism come into all of this?
Well, Lanza would say that quantum entanglement isn't just some random quirk of the universe. It's evidence. It suggests that space itself might be an illusion, or at least not what we think it is.
Okay, I can see why people find this idea so intriguing and a little controversial, but I have to admit, the possibility that reality isn't this fixed, rigid thing, that it's flexible, that it can change, it's a pretty exciting thought.
It is.
But before we go too far down that rabbit hole, let's talk more about Robert Lanza. You mentioned he's not just like some philosopher sitting around pondering the universe, right? He's a respected scientist. Tell me more about his journey.
Well, it all started when he was young. He had this insatiable curiosity, this drive to understand the world. In fact, when he was a kid, he skipped school one day.
Ooh.
Yeah, hopped on a train to Boston because he was determined to meet this renowned scientist.
See, even scientific revolutionaries skip school sometimes. I bet that story gets told in science classrooms now. So what happened? Did he actually meet his scientific hero?
He did, and that little adventure, believe it or not, it led to him getting a job. And not just any job, a life-changing job at MIT.
Wow, talk about being in the right place at the right time.
Right, and that's where he really dove headfirst into the world of quantum physics, surrounded by all these brilliant minds working in a lab that was pushing the boundaries of biology and physics. It was the perfect environment for him.
I bet. So that's where he started exploring those quantum experiments, the ones that just seem to defy logic and make you question everything, right? Like that famous double-slit experiment.
Exactly. That experiment, it's like the heart of biocentrism and really quantum mechanics as a whole. It shows just how much power observation has over reality.
For those of you who haven't heard of it, or maybe just need a refresher, imagine this. You have a beam of light, and it's being aimed at this barrier, and this barrier has two slits in it.
Okay.
And behind the barrier, there's a screen so you can see where the light hits, right? Now, if you shine that light through those two slits, you'd expect to see two bands of light on the screen, right? At least that's what logic tells us should happen.
If light was just particles, you'd be right. But that's not what happens.
And that's where things get really, really interesting. Because instead of those two bands of light, you get this pattern. It looks like ripples in a pond, kind of like an interference pattern.
Exactly. And that means that the light, it's acting like a wave. And not only that, but it's going through both slits at the same time.
Which is wild. How can something be in two places at once, right?
Right. It's mind-blowing. But it gets even weirder, because here's the thing. If you try to watch the experiment to see which slit each particle of light actually goes through, that interference pattern, it vanishes. It's like it never happened. The act of observing it forces the light to act like a particle again, choosing just one slit or the other.
Hold on. So what you're saying is just by looking at the experiment, we change the outcome.
It seems that way, doesn't it?
That's some serious observer effect. It's like the universe knows it's being watched.
Right. That's exactly what biocentrism suggests. Lanza would argue that this experiment, it's proof. Proof that reality at its most fundamental level isn't set in stone. Instead, it exists as this wave of potential until an observer comes along and collapses that wave function. And by observing it, they force it to become one thing or another.
Okay, that one might take a minute to process, I gotta be honest.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
But before we move on to that, I'm curious to learn more about what Lanza was working on at MIT. What other groundbreaking ideas did he explore?
Well, you see, he was fascinated by this question. How do other living things, other organisms, how do they experience the world? How is it different from how we do it?
Okay, and we're back. That last bit about the double slit experiment, I'm still wrapping my head around that one. It's like, I get it, but I don't get it, you know?
Yeah, it's one of those things that kind of breaks your brain a little.
It does. It makes you wonder, like, what else don't we know?
Exactly.
But you were saying that Lanza was really interested in how other living things, how they experience the world differently than we do.
Yes.
Well, think about it. We experience everything through our senses, right? Sight, smell, touch, taste, sound. But other creatures, they've got these totally different ways of perceiving their surroundings.
It's true, like bats and their echolocation, they see with sound.
Exactly. Or sharks, they can sense electrical fields in the water. And some insects can see ultraviolet light, which is totally invisible to us. It's like we're all tuned into these different channels of reality.
Different channels, I like that. So is there one objective reality out there, or are there as many realities as there are ways of perceiving them?
It's a mind-blowing thought, isn't it? And that's what biocentrism brings to the table. If, as Lanza argues, consciousness plays this crucial role in shaping reality, then it would make sense that different types of consciousness would experience the world differently, wouldn't it?
I mean, yeah, that makes sense. So it's not just about our senses, it's about consciousness itself shaping what we perceive.
Exactly.
That's a pretty profound concept. But let's bring it back to us humans for a second. So if biocentrism is right, and our perception shapes our reality, does that mean we have more control over our lives than we realize? Could we actually change our reality simply by changing our perception?
Now, that is the million-dollar question, and it's something Lanza dives into in the book. He argues that the more aware we become of our own perceptions, our biases, and assumptions, the more we can shift our experience of the world around us.
It's like those optical illusions, right? You look at it one way and it's a vase, but shift your focus and boom, it's two faces.
Exactly. That's a great analogy. It's not just passively observing. It's about realizing we're actively choosing what we focus on, how we interpret things, what meaning we assign to experiences.
So if we're not just passive observers, if we're active participants in shaping our reality, what does that mean for how we deal with challenges in our lives? I mean, the setbacks, the day-to-day struggles, all of it.
Well, biocentrism would say that we might have a lot more agency than we think we do.
Mhm.
If our perception influences our reality, maybe by changing our perception, we can change how we experience a situation. Even if the external stuff, the circumstances, stay the same.
So instead of feeling stuck, feeling powerless when things get tough, we could try to shift our perspective and maybe even find new possibilities within those challenges.
Exactly. Now, that doesn't mean we can just magically wish away our problems, obviously.
Right.
But it does suggest we have more control over our own happiness, well-being, even our destinies than we might have thought.
I mean, that's a really empowering thought. It's like we have this kind of superpower, the ability to shape our reality with our minds.
It's powerful stuff, no doubt.
But you know what they say, with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Absolutely. And that's a big theme running through Lanza's work, this idea of responsibility. If we are co-creators of our reality, then we have a duty to use that power wisely, not just for ourselves, but for everyone and everything around us.
It makes you think twice about the choices we make every day, you know, and how those choices impact not just us, but the world as a whole. Okay, this is getting deep. Can we lighten the mood for a second and talk about some more of those mind-bending experiments? We've covered the double slit experiment. You mentioned there were others that really back up the biocentric theory.
Oh, there are. One that comes to mind is the delayed choice quantum eraser experiment. It's even weirder than the double slit experiment in some ways.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one. Isn't that the one where it's like those particles, they already know what's going to happen before it happens?
Yeah, it's often explained like that, but that's oversimplifying things a bit. To really understand it, we need to talk about causality. The idea that an effect can't happen before its cause.
Okay, I think I'm following.
So we usually think of events happening in a straight line, cause and effect. But this experiment, it throws that whole idea out the window.
Okay, walk me through it. Hit me with the weirdness.
Okay, so picture the double slit experiment again. Light passing through those two slits, right? But this time, imagine there's this device, and it can tag each photon of light as it goes through one slit or the other. But here's the kicker. It does it without actually messing with the photon's journey.
So it's like putting a little sticky note on each photon, but the note doesn't change where the photon goes.
Exactly. So those photons, they zip through the slits, get tagged, and hit a detector screen, making that interference pattern, just like we'd expect. Now here's where it gets really nuts. After the photons have gone through the slits and hit the screen, the experimenters can decide whether to erase those tags or not.
Hold on, wait a minute. They make this decision after the fact, after the photons have already done their thing.
You got it. And the choice? Get this, it's totally random. There's absolutely no way those photons could have known what was going to happen.
Okay, this is already messing with my head.
Just wait, there's more. So if the experimenters decide to erase those tags, the photons on the screen, they create an interference pattern as if they knew those tags were going to get erased all along. But if they don't erase the tags, no interference pattern, as if the photons knew they were being watched after the fact.
Whoa. That is wild. It's like those photons traveled back in time or something, changing their behavior based on a decision that hadn't been made yet. But wait, I thought time travel wasn't possible.
It's a head-scratcher for sure, and it totally challenges our understanding of how time and cause and effect work. But that's exactly Lanza's point. This experiment, it suggests that just observing something, even if it's after the fact, it can still influence how those particles behaved in the
So
past.
it's not just about us observing what's happening right now. It's about consciousness potentially having this influence over events that already took place. Okay, now my brain is officially broken. This is all pretty wild. But we've been talking about these tiny little particles of light here. Does any of this apply to, like, bigger things, the stuff we see around us every day?
That is the big question, isn't it? And it's one that has scientists scratching their heads. I mean, quantum mechanics, it often seems so bizarre, so counterintuitive compared to our everyday lives. But there's more and more evidence popping up that suggests these quantum effects, they might not be limited to the microscopic world.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Tell me more. I'm still trying to wrap my head around all that. It's like, where does the quantum world end and the real world begin? Are they even separate things?
It really makes you question everything, doesn't it? And honestly, we don't have all the answers yet. But there have been these amazing experiments that suggest the line between those two worlds, the quantum and the everyday, it might be blurrier than we thought. Remember those buckyballs we talked about earlier? Those big molecules, 60 carbon atoms all linked together?
Yeah, I remember.
Well, back in 2005, some researchers at the University of Vienna, they actually demonstrated quantum entanglement with those buckyballs.
Wait, seriously, so not just tiny particles, but something you could almost see with a microscope.
You got it. And if something that big and complex can show quantum behavior, it really makes you wonder, what's the limit?
Right. It's like the universe is so much more mysterious than we thought. So much of what we thought was just like solid and predictable is turning out to be this flexible, uncertain thing. But bringing it back to biocentrism, this idea that our consciousness is woven together with reality, that's a pretty radical concept.
Radical, sure, but that's how it is with any really groundbreaking idea, right? There are always skeptics,
Yes, ma'am.
people who have trouble fitting it into the way they already understand things.
Yeah, it really challenges the way we've been taught to think about the world.
It does. But isn't that how we make progress? By questioning what we think we know and being open to new possibilities. Like, I mean, think about Copernicus.
Right, when he said the Earth goes around the sun.
Exactly. People thought he was crazy. It took time. It took evidence. It took people being willing to let go of old ideas for that to become accepted.
So true. Paradigms don't shift overnight. But it sounds like you're saying biocentrism has the potential to be that kind of revolution, that it could change how we see the entire universe and our place in it.
I think it does. As we learn more about consciousness, about quantum mechanics, about the nature of reality itself, I think we're going to find more and more evidence that supports the biocentric view.
So you're saying this isn't just some fringe theory, it's a serious avenue of scientific exploration.
Exactly. And even if, down the road, it turns out that biocentrism isn't the whole picture, the questions it's raising, the conversations it's starting, those are valuable. It's making us think outside the box, to look at things in a new light, to approach these big mysteries with a sense of wonder.
It's like Lanza says in the book, the universe is not only stranger than we imagine, it's stranger than we can imagine.
Such a great quote. And it really sums up the whole spirit of biocentrism. It's an invitation to embrace the unknown, to be okay with not having all the answers, and to never stop asking those big, challenging questions.
And maybe, just maybe, by asking those questions, by daring to imagine new possibilities, that's how we unlock the universe's biggest secrets.
You never know.
This deep dive has been quite a journey. It's been challenging, eye-opening, and it's definitely left me with a sense of awe. Thank you so much for guiding us through this exploration of biocentrism.
It's been a pleasure discussing this with you. And to our listeners, we hope you'll continue to explore these ideas too.
And hey, who knows? Maybe one of our listeners will be the one to make that next groundbreaking discovery, the one that changes everything.
I'd love to see it.
Until then, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.